say you're saving the best for last.
Did you pull your garden out yet, or did you cover everything?
Did. We raided the neighbors last night for green tomatoes.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna guess in about 3 weeks, I'm gonna start having bags of leaves.
Okay. That's good.
You need leaves. You need leaves.
Yeah, put them in the garden. And then yeah.
I think my trees produce somewhere around 30 bags of leaves every year. So.
You have a
Pull my
park over
semi
there or what?
down the
Yeah, I
alley.
provide the whole north side of town. All right, everybody. Welcome to the City Council work session here Monday, October 17th, 2022 at 5:30 p.m. Of course, here in the City Hall Council chambers. Apparently, I can't talk very well tonight. I apologize. Calling the meeting to order. Lane, would you do a roll call for us, please?
Nisley. Here. Tryon. Here. Bowles.
Here.
Lucas.
Here.
Garrett.
Here.
Flanders.
Here.
Reeker.
Here.
Woods.
Here.
Thank you. A current copy of the Open Meetings Act of the State of Nebraska is posted on the wall at the back of the council chambers. No formal vote or action will be taken at this meeting. I repeat, no formal vote or action will be taken at this meeting. It is just a discussion and presentation meeting. We have really two items on the agenda tonight. The first one is North Platte Ice, and the second one is 308 BMX. Both will have very nice and informative presentations. But note that you have some information in front of you from each of these folks. First up, we have Blue with North Platte Ice. I'm going to expect you guys keep these around 20 minutes, and that way if we have questions, we can ask for about 10. Is that good?
Absolutely.
Okay. It's all you, Blue.
Thank you for having us. We appreciate it.
Would you make sure that microphone is on for me?
Is this mic on?
Red
Yes.
light? Okay, thank
Red
you.
light's on.
Okay,
Button says on as well, so.
perfect.
NP ice skating rink. I moved here 3 years ago, roughly 3 years ago, and recognized there's no ice rink in North Platte. I've been operating ice rinks for 25 years in Colorado, in Denver metro area, and then in Casper, Wyoming before moving here.
Hey, Blue, I know you, but everyone else may not know you. You want to tell us your last name real quick?
Blue McGrath.
Okay.
Stephen McGrath is my given name. Blue is a nickname I acquired many years ago, and it's stuck around, and I'm still using it.
Okay.
PH. McGrath, capital G. Hey, Tyler.
Hey, how are you?
Apparently we have a joiner.
Sorry,
Okay.
I'm late. Apologize.
Tyler Sexton became my partner in this as we discussed the ice rink. I wanted to do a refrigerated outdoor ice rink here in North Platte. Refrigeration so that it is frozen throughout the winter. As we know, our temperatures get a little warmer and such, so a refrigerated system will keep the ice throughout the winter months, December to February. Tyler and I started a nonprofit organization called NP Ice to facilitate this rink and move forward with it. It's been a great adventure so far.
One of the biggest things, are we get to the location yet?
Hey.
We're talking about location and.
Tyler, would you just make sure you get close to the microphone
Okay.
so the folks at
Apologize.
home can hear you, that's all.
Sounds good. One of the biggest things we were looking and then took us the longest time to get to was to try to find a location for this. Ran into some snags as far as initially thought about the downtown location would be great to have it done. Ran into some snags about the electrical portion of it, getting that to the rink because this is a refrigerated rink that needs 480 watt power. So that's a difficult thing to find in North Platte. And talking with the mayor and talking with a couple other people around town, we found that the Centennial Park area, right now we're looking at the area just south of the baseball concession stands in Centennial Park. big flat area, if you guys can visualize it, but there used to be tennis courts there that are not there anymore, that we feel like that would be a great area. There is a very, very close 480 watt power source there that is not used during the winter at all. It's kind of an unused area from the months of December through February, so for parking purposes, we thought that would be a great place too. And plus, it's a recreational place anyway for the city, with the rec center close and the baseball fields close. So with our idea of trying to bring a outdoor family community activity that's a sport related thing in the winter, it just made sense that this would be a good place for it to go. And so that's kind of why we would like to put it at this place.
With this venture, it definitely takes a lot of community involvement on all levels, funding the equipment that we're acquiring to use our dasher boards. They go around the outside of the rink. The ice refrigeration system, there's a chiller system and mat piping, there's 3 miles of pipes that are going to be under the ice to keep it frozen. And, you know, it's a heavy, a large to-do. As you can see here with the systems, they each have their pieces, 50,000 in that range for the chiller, which is just going to be rented at this time. The mat piping would be owned by us. The whatever we acquire to resurface would be owned by us. If we're able to, a benefit of covering the ice would be that the ice would stay more solid during the daytime on those warm days. The refrigeration system will always keep the ice solid on the bottom, but when the heat is on and the sun load, it may get soft during the day. On any of those days, as soon as the sun is gone and it cools off, it starts cooling off, the ice will freeze and we'll be skating again that evening, for sure. Dasher board system, a new one, 90 by 70 foot, which is about the third size of a full hockey rink, is $65,000. We're getting contracted to purchase a used system for about $45,000 at this point. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, so this has become a endeavor to try to raise funds for this. This is kind of how we went about doing this starting in September of this year, and trying to gain sponsorships through the community through different levels. We have a couple of different things planned as far as a blizzard ball in November, and then a community event in the end of this month to just introduce ice sports at the DNN Center throughout the community, a free thing. And in doing that, over to date, we've been able to raise about $106,000. Now that falls short of our initial plan of the $150,000 to $250,000 to buy brand new equipment and to make it run for a full year for the first year. And so the $106,000 that we have now, we believe we'll be able to purchase the equipment at a reduced rate. Like Blue said, we did find a dasher board system that we're able to contract, that we were able to get much less than we thought we would. We have a line on the same thing happening with the piping that'll go underneath it, which are 2 big costs. The rental system for the chiller remains the same. That's going to be the same price as we were thinking. So adding all that up, we are able to buy the equipment for what we have. We still have some other things in the mix right now. We're hoping to get a couple of grants. We've applied for a grant from the Quality Growth Fund, and then we've also applied for a Mid-Nebraska Community Foundation grant, and we haven't heard much on those yet, so there's nothing guaranteed there, but we're hoping that we'd apply for or we'd be available for some funds there. Plus, with the 2 fundraisers we have coming in, we feel like we would be able to we'd be able to pay for having the rink operational for the 3 months that it is at a reduced rate, basically. And so that's kind of where we are now. There's also Blue can go over some of this stuff, but he has ran ice rinks professionally for quite a few years and can know some of the revenue-based things for this ice rink. It will cost to skate there, not a great deal, but it will cost something to just keep the operational, to basically pay for the operations of the rink. And he can expand on some of the things that he's worked on in the past and getting ready for.
Yeah. The refrigeration, of course, is probably the highest cost continuously. We intend to have both volunteers and some paid staff to manage the ice rink. Maintenance, doing resurfacing the ice, things break, of course, when you're playing hockey with it. And this rink is going to be for all types of skating and ice sports, though. Just what you see in front of you, just with the public skating, and these are some of the projections that we came up with, having leagues and classes for anybody, everybody, to skate and have fun. We'll have rental helmets, rental skates, skate trainers, things to introduce our town to ice skating. I think a lot of people have been introduced to ice skating at some level, but to actually have it and maintain it. I've played, I've taught, I've run my own hockey camps. I've been teaching skating for 35 years now. So adding coaches and teaching people how to do this right makes it that much more fun. And, so that's what we want to do.
And I think that's the reason I'm involved. I grew up here, have lived here majority of my life, grew up putting rinks in my backyards for my kids and with a tarp and boards, and that's all I knew, but talking with Blue about a year ago, kind of seeing his vision, what he wants to do, that's kind of where we're at. If we want to introduce ice sports to this community, I think it can go over. I think we've talked to many people that are very excited about it. I think the overwhelming thought about it is that it is a great idea. We'd love to get it going. It's just trying to make it work. And so that's why I think starting it at a small scale with a professional rink right now is honestly about as small as we can get by on and actually make work a refrigerated system. So with the whole goal of one day potentially, if it goes off, potentially maybe moving into a indoor rink that's a full-size hockey rink. But at this point, that's obviously way too expensive that we can't do anything like that. So if we want to try to get there someday, I think we have to start somewhere. And to my knowledge, we've had rinks in the past that are kind of like I've done with the tarp and the water and frozen, but we've never done a refrigerated professional rink, which a guy like this knows how to do. And so I think that's kind of my push, and that's what got me passionate about it is Blues saw what he knows, and I think I've been wanting something like this for a long time, and I think that this is the way to get it done, I guess.
Well, one of the things I recognize is over in Kearney is the Tri-City Storm. Most folks know of the Storm or have been to several games and such like that. That is the highest level of amateur hockey in our country. Those kids are drafted into the NHL. They go to Division I colleges for their college careers. That's the level of hockey that it is. We're 100 miles away from there, and there isn't a rink here. That was what I saw when I came here. The other thing, Nebraska has 3 of those teams. And again, nothing west of Kearney at this point as far as ice. And I think it's just a good venture for us. Impact on the community. Tournaments, skating, just people will come from both locally and they'll come from out of town. Once we've established this and we have tournaments and that kind of thing. We're centrally located, obviously, between Denver and Omaha, which both have very high levels of hockey and very strong hockey programs. And we're right in the middle of those two. And I think drawing people as they travel back and forth to those and coming forth will benefit our community. Holidays, part of this is going to be in December. We're going to start it up in December. And have it through the holidays. So family coming into town and coming back and stuff and just enjoying the festivities during that time. and then starting our classes and hockey programs, figure skating, in January and running through February for this year. And then, ice rink, it's been in part of my life since I was very young, and it's a great place to make friends, for memories. Families do it, just friends and doing classes, and such an athletically inclined community as we already have. And then, like Tyler said, long-term, when I first came here, I went, where's our ice rink? And for me, that's an indoor ice rink, professionally run, operated, continued. You can use it for something else in the summer, or you can keep it ice all summer long. That is the long-term goal of this process. We backed off to the temporary outdoor rink to be able to build up more community around that and enjoy it. That's a wrap for us. Do we have any questions?
What is broom ball?
What is broom ball? Broom ball is, it originated with a broom and a ball, and you don't have to wear skates, and you basically are playing hockey with a broom and a ball on the ice. So it's kind of slippery. But they modified the brooms into their plastic-headed items now, so.
You don't have to skate and you don't fall down as much.
But you do get whacked in the shins like you would with hockey.
Okay, wear pads. Gotcha.
Yes.
Pads are for sure.
So, real quick, so this is, did you say this was a quarter of a official hockey rink or half?
So the way, the vision originally was about a third size of an ice rink. So, a blue line into the end.
Mm-hmm.
The actual rink that we're looking at right now, trying to contract to buy is actually 165 feet by 70 feet. So about 2/3 of an ice rink versus.
2/3, okay, okay. So you can split that, you could play, not a regulation game, but you could play little kids.
Like 3-on-3.
Yep,
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 yep.
3-on-3 adults even.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, on that side.
So with the dasher board system that you're purchasing right now, let's say this does take off and is a win-win. Can that dasher board system that you're buying, would you have to sell that and the chiller stuff? Or could that be reused onto a full size if it would fit in there? Do you reformulate that dasher board system? Or would you have to go out and get a new dasher board system and the chillers and that mat that you laid out for the ice?
Yeah, it's a great question. The mat system itself, you can add on to that.
Okay,
For sure. The dasher boards, we're getting what is designed as an outdoor ice rink.
Okay.
So we would want to do new dasher boards for an inside rink.
right.
Beyond that, yes, you could just add pieces. They come basically in 8-foot sections.
Okay.
Boards do, so you could just add on to that.
Sure.
But the ones that we're looking at, we would probably want to be getting new.
Kind of like a Lincoln Log set. And you just
Yeah.
build up and around.
Yeah.
Yeah, as long as it's outdoor, it can be added to, but if it ever turned into an indoor rink, then we would have to buy new dasher boards.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, I hear you. Okay.
Yeah, the difference is the materials of the boards that they use. For outdoor, they have a fiberglass, on facing the ice, whereas indoor, it's a polyurethane.
Okay. Yep. But yeah, if this grew, you could get a full-size rink outdoor with this material. So you're not wasting this material.
Right.
Right.
This
Right.
material goes on.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead. Nope.
You good?
Yep.
So this is the first time I'm seeing the location.
Yeah.
What's there now? It's like a batting cage or something, right? Or what is that building?
South, well, it's batting
Or am I
cage.
thinking of the wrong spot?
No, I think you're thinking right. It's just the baseball group has the concession stand that's fairly new,
Oh, okay.
within a couple years old. So we would be just to the south of that.
Gotcha. So, well, I see the rental concession admission, Zamboni Garage. So you'll use the existing structure for that?
We're hoping to. We do have to negotiate that with the baseball group. We've talked with them initially. It sounds like about half are on board, half aren't. They have built that building not too long ago, so they're kind of, they don't necessarily just want anybody in there, so I can understand that. And I think there are some heating issues that it potentially might not be heated, and so we'd have to work through that. But we actually meet with them on Wednesday at their board meeting to see if we can get in there. But it's not a deal breaker. Obviously, it'd be a lot easier with having that be a skate rental place and using the restrooms. And if we did have leagues here, to be able to use that as a dressing room and a place to store our equipment like the Zamboni and the hockey sticks and that kind of thing. But if we don't have it, it's not a deal breaker. Just be tougher.
Excellent. So it does have restrooms and stuff over there.
Yeah, yeah.
Facilities,
Yep.
awesome. How much are you asking for the grants, quality growth, mid-Nebraska, that kind of stuff? Because you've already submitted those, right?
Right. I know we asked for $50,000 for Quality Growth Fund.
Okay.
Remember on the
Each
of
of
them
them
were
was
So
mid-Nebraska.
that's your
figures.
100 you're missing from that 107 to get you to 207-ish.
100, an additional 100 would easily pay our operating expenses for the first year. We'd be able to purchase, I mean, we have we're under contract or trying to get under contract for the dasher boards at a reduced rate. We'd be able to buy a new chiller system potentially where we'd have to rent that right now. The mat system we haven't locked down yet either, so we're trying to find a rental, not a rental, but a reduced price for that, just so it could be underneath our existing funds we have now. So
Gotcha. So you're, part of that is you want the cash to make it through the first season then essentially and pay everybody, and so.
exactly, yeah.
So I was seeing in here, is it a 3-month season? Is that what you guys are planning on doing, or?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, December 12th is the anticipated date right now. We'd start up and going through February, I think 27th
Seventh,
maybe.
yeah.
So
Right at the end of
almost 3
February.
full
Yeah.
months.
So is that normal, or is it just this year, it's a 3-month season, or is it that every year?
I'd be pretty
That's
close.
kind of the intention at this time, right now.
Gotcha.
As long as we're outdoor and, but we're also willing to expand that season if things fall into place, that's a good idea. We'd be willing to start in November or whatever,
Okay.
so.
I think we kind of see it as our first month in December being, it's the family time, getting people out on the ice for Christmas time especially. I mean, just having a lot of families out there. I mean, the first month that it's here, just to introduce as many people as we can to it and see who likes it and who doesn't, and if it would be something that would stick in this community, and we honestly see the January and February times as getting some skaters out there who are more serious about skating, definitely doing the family skates too, but maybe potentially getting our leagues going then for youth and adult potentially at that time.
Very cool. Thanks, guys.
Yep.
I just want to make a comment, I guess. I like it because you're trying to stay small. Start out
Yeah.
small. not
Yeah.
Stay small.
Right.
Start out small.
Yeah.
Just to get a feel for the community and if it is going to be something that will be utilized.
Sure.
So in this location, is there enough room where if you wanted to increase it full size and cover it, can you do all of that in this proposed location?
Yes.
You can?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a 200 feet there that it would be available to put the whole ice rink if we needed to.
Thank you.
What are the things other than just the use of the land that you're looking for from the city? And obviously the grant thing we'll be talking about, but does the city have any other roles in this, any maintenance or any expectations with the proposal?
I don't.
We do have a bit of groundwork to do, to flatten it out. It's relatively flat already, but there's a little bit of groundwork to do, that would be necessary to just make sure we've got a nice flat ice sheet there. But,
Yeah, that and use of any potentially city-owned, if it's not the baseball group that owns everything over there, potentially use of the area that's not owned by the baseball group. We will need some way to get the power from the existing transformer that's there to the rink or to the chiller system. So that's gonna have to be done 2 different ways, either trenched, which will leave a extending piece there all year that won't be moved, or on top of the ground, and covered with rubber matting or whatever too. So that's another thing we're looking into, trying to work with the city on doing that would be wonderful, getting power over to it.
Well, and there's water as well for the ice, for the resurfacer. When that's running, it's scraping the ice, but then it's putting water down, so we need a tap to be able to put the water there, so.
Is it lit at all, or would it just operate during daylight hours?
We would, no, we would need to have lights. Right now, potentially, we've been talking with the DNN Event Center, Kubota, and the football league has some lights that they have agreed that we would use, be able to use.
Portable lights that go on each side of the rink. We do believe we can turn one of the baseball field's lights around, but that's not going to shine a whole heck of a lot. So, I mean, it'll be the portable lights on each side of the rink that'll give us the most lighting on that area. It'd be great if we had a temporary structure over, or a full-size structure, a permanent structure over it that we could hang lights from, but the cost of that is a lot, you know, and that's a lot to ask of anybody, and it's a lot to ask to put a permanent, I mean, it'd be great for us to have a permanent structure put there right now and say, okay, this ice rink's gonna be wonderful forever, but, I mean, it's hard to know that right now, so, I mean, that's a lot to ask, so we're really not thinking there's gonna be a permanent roof over top of it this year, or even a structural or temporary roof over it, just based on the cost.
Oh, thank you.
Sound-wise with the chiller system, refrigeration system, is that minimal? Is that, since there's residents?
Yeah, it will have sound, but it's not going to be a constant loud noise. But yeah, the system, I mean, depends on the weather too. When it's nice and cool out, it won't run. It won't need to run as much. And when it's warmer, though, it'll start up and run.
It's one of the reasons we looked at that location is it's a fair distance from anyone's home, so it's unlikely it would bother anybody.
It's also close to the rec center, it's also close to Adams Middle School, you know, so an idea is to have it open during the times where the kids could walk over, and another place for them to be, you know, so they're not, filling up the rec center, and there's a safe activity that's supervised for kids to do.
So, and you just touched on my point, this will be monitored at all times, obviously your concessions will be open, and so there'll be a supervision there.
Yep, yep.
And then, so at the end of the season, February 28th comes around, what happens to this area? What happens to all your materials? Does it, you guys tear it down and have storage
The
for it?
intention at this point is to tear it down. We should be able to store it in relatively a 40-foot container. Might take a little bit more than that, but that's relatively our plan
Okay,
at this point.
so a pod, basically?
Yeah.
Okay,
Or
and
two,
then that
yeah.
pod would move off-site
Right.
and
Right.
to a
Yeah.
different location?
Yep.
Okay.
So that's an advantage of this rink, is that it would be available put a different place. You know, if it were to really take off, like you said, and there's a better location to be found for it, I mean, gosh, it could be put there. You know, so it could be picked up and put there next year, if potentially. You know, I think this site looks the best to us right now and potentially for years to come, but, I mean, who knows, with everything going on, it might end up being a great place for it somewhere else, and this is a temporary rink, so it could be put up there.
Yeah. I love the location, to be honest with you. You have
Yeah.
parking, you have power,
Right.
so.
Right.
Well, and another option, longer term, would be thought on this, is if we put a hard surface underneath it, left it there, it could be used for inline hockey during the summer, you know, different events of that type. But that's not what we expect by any means. It's just an option that'll always be out there, so.
Anyone have anything else? Thank you, gentlemen. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Next up, we have the 308 BMX regarding the, yeah, go ahead and get going there, Brandon. And we have Brandon McCook and Bunny Hind. And we're looking at a possible BMX track over a little bit north of the existing girls softball fields, or a little bit north of Billwood Field as well. And you do have this document in front of you, which is essentially the presentation, so.
My eyesight's not what it used to be, so I'm gonna have the same so that I can read. with you instead of trying to look up to the screen. I'm short, so I'm going to move this forward. I don't have his.
Bunny isn't very tall either. So.
Yeah, Bunny's not very tall either.
No, I know that I said your name, but please
Yeah, her
tell us
hair.
who you are for the
Yeah,
record. if you
Brandon
would, please.
McCook, founder or founder of 308 BMX. And this is Bunny Hind, founder, co-founder of the same 308 BMX. The only one here that might remember us would be Mr. Nisley from before. But let me give you a slight history of who we are, what we've been trying to do since 2016. I personally have been involved in the sport of BMX for 40 years. I started racing when I was about 10 years old. My dad bought me an old Schwinn Predator and kind of got bit by the BMX bug. Have always been on bikes in some form or another, whether it be the little 20-inch BMX bikes or the larger mountain bikes. I do have a recreational mountain bike. I started racing semi-professionally when I was about 12. I got my first sponsorship, co-sponsorship, I guess you would call it, when I was about 13. And then life happened, kind of got out of it a little bit, but I've always been involved in the sport for the past 40-ish years. I moved to Nebraska in 2004, and there was a track up in Broken Bow until about 2009, and took my kids up there once. They never quite got into it, but you know, it's not for everybody. You know, they weren't really into sports at all. So we've always been into hockey, though. You know, so you know, I've been an Avalanche fan ever since they went to Denver, and then I grew up as a Kings fan and a Mighty Ducks fan. So go Avs. In some way or another, I've always either ridden or been involved in riding or repairing or whatever with bikes. So in 2016, I came up with this harebrained idea to put up a track. At the time, it was on the south side of town over on the corner of Walker and Buffalo. I learned of some land that was designated a city park, but you know, nothing really came to fruition with that. So I forgot to start my timer. I'm sorry. He said 20 minutes. So, yeah. I'll try to keep it to 18.
You're 3 minutes in right now.
Yeah. So I came up with this idea, and I started 308 BMX as a 501c3, purely volunteer. We won't have any paid members of the city board, of our board, or anybody operating the track. It will be 100% volunteer basis. Which is like 95% of the tracks that are in the United States right now, which is currently about 350 tracks from USA BMX. Part of the original plan was also to add a pump track, which I'll show a video of what a pump track is to help answer some questions, but and also a skate park and some other amenities. Well, we scaled it all back down. So now we are at the portion where of course, COVID happened, you know, so we took a little bit of a break, but we've never gone away. And then Mr. Mayor and Lane and the previous city administrator had approached us with another idea. Since our original property had other intentions or something else was happening with it. So they brought this other property to our attention, and the property in question is directly north of, I think it's a goose pond or a duck pond, over by the Nazarene Church, right before you enter the golf course. Their softball field is just to the south and east of it, just a little bit. So it's an underutilized dog park at the moment. Both Bunny and I have traveled over there on several occasions and hardly noticed anybody utilizing this, and anybody that we do see, they say, well, it's really the only thing on the north side of town, but we don't like picking all the stickers out of our dog's hair and everything else, so we don't really like to come over here, but it's really the only thing. So Mr. Kelleher said, I think this underutilized property would be ideal. So we came up with this idea to use, it's approximately 6 acres, 5.5, 6 acres, and we would section it off into 2 distinct areas. One that is 100% open to the public and the use of what we call a pump track. And then the other portion would be a USA BMX sanctioned racetrack. That would be open to the public, but with limitations. The limitations would be, of course, no competitiveness training. There would be training sessions set up at a fee. We call them practice days, where the gate itself would actually be utilized and then the people could actually use the track as it's intended to be. Otherwise, the pump track is going to be the public usage, and they'd be able to go on at any time, just like they do the city skate park as it sits right now. The area in question, if you notice on the east side of the large outlined area, that is, we have a verbal confirmation from the Nazarene Church. When we do host large events, which we stand a chance of having a national, it probably won't be within the first 3 years of our existence, but we could host a national event. The national events draw anywhere from 700 to 1,500 riders from across the country and from abroad. There are professional riders that do come in from Europe, Russia, Southeast Asia, and they race our U.S. national circuit in chase of points in Jersey. And there's a little bit of cash involved from USA BMX on the pro level. So that would be one of the events that we would potentially be able to host throughout the year. The other two events would be our Race for Life event, which is it helps with childhood leukemia. And then we would also have a genuine regional event or a state event, and we would participate with the other 3 tracks in Nebraska in points races to declare state championships for individuals. Who is familiar with the sport of BMX? Is everybody kind of familiar? I can explain kind of. BMX is a sport, and it's strictly human-powered vehicles. It's actually it was invited into the U.S. Summer Olympics in 2008, so it is now an official Olympic medal sport. You have a distinct beginning and a distinct end, and you race one lap in a heat, and then the riders that win or get in certain places then progress to the next round or the next heat. And then you finally end up with a line of 8 riders that are riding for 1st through 8th for the day or for that particular race. It is strictly human powered. There is no motorcycle, even though the name is BMX, bicycle motocross. The word moto is for the heats. It's a way of describing the heat, okay, or the round. And then the pump track then kind of elaborates on that, where you can just go on and practice or have fun or play. It's kind of the same concept as the skate park. If anybody wants more elaborate information on the sport of BMX, I'll be happy to, after the meeting, to inform you. Yeah, it is. I mean, there's actually an 80-year-old lady from Iowa right now. She's still currently racing. She's celebrating her 35th year in the sport. So, yeah, it is literally a sport for all ages. There is no age limit. Some of the impacts of just the being associated with USA BMX for the community is we would have what we call the STEM program that we could introduce into the schools. USA BMX Foundation is a nonprofit also, and they've introduced their own STEM program that they bring into the schools, and science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And I think there's another one that they just added recently, but they teach the mechanics of bicycles to the children in the school setting. It's an after-school extracurricular activity, so that would be introduced also, or could be introduced through the school board, and that wouldn't be just be North Platte, but it could be Lincoln County as a whole. So that would be introduced into the mix, and then all, of course, our regional and national events as well. This kind of gives a little layout of how we would Sorry, I'm just a little nervous. The before slide, the slide before, I haven't done this since 2019, so I apologize. The previous slide had that little sliver next to the Nazarene Church. They have agreed that during our big national events, we could utilize that for additional parking. Because like, again, it'd be hard to house 750 to 1,000 additional people in that small area. So they did agree verbally that we would be able to utilize that area. And we would more than be able to accommodate that influx of people coming into the area with that additional parking that the Nazarene Church has offered up for us. This one allows me to show you just, if you're familiar with the area, it's already fenced off and gated. The smaller area that you first approach is about 1 to 1.1 acres. That would be the site dedicated just for a pump track. So the gating and the fencing would remain in that location, so it would still have some kind of security. Even though it would be open to the public, you're not just going to be able to walk in. You would still have to be able to enter through a gate. Again, free to the public. People can come and go as they wish, just like they are available to at the skate park as it is. So no admission, no nothing. They just come and enjoy it. What is a pump track? You're probably asking. A pump track is, instead of a USA BMX sanctioned track having a distinct beginning or an end, this is more of like an infinity loop. It doesn't have a distinct beginning or end. You utilize the track by your own momentum. Can you pedal? Yes. Probably have to pedal to begin, okay? But that's if you're on a bicycle. If you're on a skateboard, then you pump once and your momentum, again, carries you. This will be asphalted, so it can be utilized by bicycles, skateboards, rollerblades, roller skates, scooters, pump scooters. We are strictly prohibiting motorized vehicles. Electric scooters, maybe, because we know some people can't, but electric will be the extent of it. Nothing gas powered whatsoever. Noise is a key factor for us, and also the dust. So with this being an asphalted track, then that takes out the dust factor. With landscaping around the area, then we won't have the dust collection and the dust blowing also in the area, so that will be negligible, minimal at best. Also on the BMX track, a majority of it will be asphalted, or there'll be a lot of concrete as well. But then the interior is going to be kind of landscaped a bit, so that, again, the dust and the dirt, the noise level is going to be just as much as any city park with kids playing. There might be some loudspeaker activity during a sanctioned event, just to announce racing and stuff like that, or it's for the spectators so that they can know what's going on. But that's only going to be during the events. Again, with this being as far north as we can get, there's not really any housing involved, in the area. There is a business next door, but we probably won't operate unless it's a national weekend. We won't operate during his business hours, at least during the BMX events, the sanctioned events. And they're going to be on a weekend anyway, so I don't think he's going to be in business or doing business. As you can tell through some of these pictures, I hope they showed up okay in the pictures. So, but that kind of gives you an idea of what a pump track kind of looks like, at least from an aerial view. I did present with a couple of videos just to kind of show you. This one is using the pump track on a bicycle, and it's about a 2-minute video.
This is Zoe. We're here at our local pump track with a couple of sweet new bikes, and today we're going to show you the best practices of hitting a pump track.
As you can see, she's really just using her momentum to get around.
What exactly is a pump track? Generally speaking, it's a controlled environment for rollers, some berms. It allows riders of all different levels and on all different bikes to come out, have some fun, feel some comfort. All right, so now you're ready to drop in and rip it. What
great exercise for any age. Gets those hips moving, gets those knees bending.
Have those turns. Now, to keep it really simple, all you gotta do is keep your eyes up and look through the turn. All right, there you go, some pump track basics. Hopefully that helps you build some confidence. Grab your bike, head out to your local track, be safe, and have some fun.
So that's on a bicycle. Now this video is of a temporary solution. Our solution, of course, would be more permanent, but it's the same concept, but ridden on a skateboard as compared to on a bicycle. Same basic concept, but on a different travel medium. You can see the similarities on how to use the pump track on different vehicles. Not quite 8 minutes. So we'll cut that one just a hair short. You guys get the concept? Okay. Nope. All right, so moving on to the second portion of the BMX side of it, the sanctioned side of it. USA BMX is it's actually USA BMX and BMX Canada. They are the largest sanctioning body in the world, outside of UCI, which sanctions a lot of events, not just for BMX, but all types of cycling. USA BMX and BMX Canada are the North American side of it. These would be officially sanctioned by that governing body. We would maintain and operate them on the local volunteer level. Construction would also be done by us, by volunteers. The two ideas that you see here take up the remainder. I apologize for it not being 100% to scale, but it's pretty close. The track on the left is a common design, which again will fit nicely into that area. We see a lot of these tracks in the Midwest, and probably 60% of the track layouts are just like the track on the left. The track on the right is the concept that we're going after. Again, it will fit into the area that of this land, of this property, but it's very unique for our region. I would say there's one other track in about a 12 or 13 state surrounding area that has a track design like this, so it would make this a very unique destination spot for people that are wanting to race outside their local tracks. And we would get riders from not just our 8 surrounding states, but from coast to coast. There's families that will load up during the summer, their RVs, and they will travel to BMX tracks across the country just for events like this. They may show up on a regular race night, or they may show up on a national event or a regional event or something of that nature, but the uniqueness of a track like these will definitely promote our area for tourism and for the sport. And then with the addition of the pump track being on the same property location, it just emphasizes our effort to build something, that wheeled sports can definitely, get by with, utilize. So, I think the last slide is just a neat little thing. I had produced a commercial back in 2018 that coincidentally made it locally during the Super Bowl. So we got a free Super Bowl ad, which generally would cost you thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. But because we are a nonprofit, then when we go for media, then we are considered, stuff like this is considered a public service announcement. and it drops in. Well, it just coincidentally dropped in during the Super Bowl. So we got a free Super Bowl ad. But I wanted to show it to you guys and just show you what the community had seen during the Super Bowl. This did have the old location as the header, so just keep that in mind. It disappears here in a minute. So as you can see, I mean, BMX is a family sport. It's not just for kids. It's not just for adults. It's not just for the teens. Again, it's an Olympic sport, and it's growing in popularity across the country. Worldwide, the UCI, the Universal Cycling Institute, had adopted it back in 2008 when it was brought into the Olympics. So, I mean, it's huge. It was a giant sport. 3
Okay.
tracks in Nebraska: Kearney, Lincoln, and Omaha. Financials, we can go over them. Our financial board member is not here tonight, unfortunately, so it's all by memory, but we have started the financial part of it. So,
That's good. Let's move into the question section.
yes, yeah, I thought I was getting close.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
You opened up the door, financials.
Yes.
Where are we at and what do we need?
What
Where
we-
are you guys at and what do you guys need to do to get this to fruition?
What we currently have is approximately $40,000 in the bank, with another $60,000 in written, signed commitments from other businesses in North Platte. We have applied for grants, and unfortunately, some of those grants fell through because of the COVID and some extenuating circumstances that came into fruition. We're going to need, with everything that's happened here recently with building costs and whatnot, originally we were going to need approximately $190,000 to get just the BMX track started. That price has probably gone up to about $250,000 just based off of building expenses. The pump track is going to be our primary focus to begin with, and then we'll move into the BMX track. But we want to get the pump track started to get the excitement going, and then start on the BMX track. Because as soon as the kids, adults, whoever is on the pump track, then they'll want to get onto the big track. So the goal is to get the pump track and then move into, if we can do them simultaneously or semi-simultaneously, great.
How much is the pump track?
The pump track will be approximately 100 to 150,000. So we could probably, the way we sit right now with some more fundraising and grants, we could probably start January on construction.
Weather permitting.
Yeah, weather permitting. I mean, December, January, and depending on how aggressively we fundraise. Again, the fundraising was going really, really well until we ran into with the COVID and the previous city council meeting with needing the land usage agreement. We got into a loop. We couldn't get the funding because we didn't have the land usage agreement.
Yeah, it's called a vicious circle.
Exactly,
That you can't
exactly.
get out of, I
So, and we appreciate you recognizing that. And it, to be honest, it kind of went stale, because we couldn't get the land usage agreement. We
Oh, the
couldn't,
COVID
yeah.
had-
And then COVID, yeah, so we couldn't fundraise beyond that. And then Mr. Mayor came to us again, like I said, at the beginning of the year, and brightened up our eyes again. So, yeah, we feel firmly that, like I said, we could probably get both of them started semi-simultaneously, but at least the pump track would be up and operational first.
Ed?
Yes, sir.
What about grounds maintenance? Who's gonna be responsible?
That is our volunteer board. I currently have a list, and I have been keeping up with them over the last 2.5 years. I've got a list currently of about 15 local volunteers, mainly parents, that want to get involved with pre-race day grooming of the track or mowing or, just general concessions and stuff like that. I'll be the head track director. So I'll be basically overseeing all of the operations of it, the correspondent with USA BMX and getting us in line with insurances and everything else of that nature. And then my 2 assistant track operators will fill in if and when I can't.
If at some time in the future, the usage of the track dwindles, it appears that there's a fair amount of earth moving
Yes,
to be done here, and
the BMX track alone, the sanctioned track would be approximately 6,000 cubic yards of dirt that we'd have to move in.
so I guess my question is, there's gonna be asphalt that's gonna have to be removed. And,
Yes.
And so at that time, when it diminishes in usage, who's gonna be responsible then for putting it back?
I'm sure the city and us, we could come to some agreement as far as the removal of that, but I don't foresee that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's been discussed, Ed, is that the land would be leased to the 308 BMX entity. So if at some time it became unused or whatever, then the lease would just terminate and it would become city property. But he's right, we'd have to figure out how to resolve the condition of the land in the lease.
So, everything's volunteer basis, so your
Yes.
annual, cash flow that you need is pretty minimal then, huh?
Correct.
Maintenance and things of that nature.
Which that will all come from, much like how Blue said that they would have the dasher boards, we would have sponsor signage and as well. The gate would have a yearly sponsorship and their name would be on the gate. So every time the gate came up, that business's logo or saying would be up on the gate. We would have signs, sponsors up along, very much how the ball diamonds do right now, and they have their painted signs up on, there would be the advertising in lieu of sponsorship. The racing itself does cost, so if you want to participate in the genuine racing, then you buy a USA BMX membership, which is valid throughout the country, not just in North Platte, not just in Nebraska, but you can travel throughout the United States with one yearly USA BMX membership. And then typically you race a day for $8 to $12. And that gets you the entire day of racing. Now, if you're out the first race, of course, that may seem like you've been gypped, but if you make it all the way to the finals, then that was a $10 or $12 that was spent very well. And on a 3-day event, like a national event, then you multiply that times. So
Gotcha. Are there currently lights over there?
there are not, but we talked about temporary lighting, and I do know several of the electrical contractors in town that in the past, again, pre-COVID, price escalations and everything else, had been more than willing to help us out with trying to get some form of lighting out there.
Gotcha. What about restrooms? Where are the closest?
Restrooms, the closest would be at the concession stand on the south side, but we would start with the porta potties. There is water out there, so we would be able to, maintain the facility at least with our water needs with the water that's already existing. So it would not be that hard to add restrooms later. And again, that would be a fundraising kind of event that we would have.
So you guys would handle the maintenance?
Correct.
Mr. Meek already asked that. Is there anything else the city would be responsible for?
I think we discussed like trash bins.
Trash collection, maybe.
And, the electrical, the water's already there, like Brandon said.
And those would probably be provided. Brandon and I have talked about it at a discounted rate. Because we're not going to really use a lot of, if we happen to run during the night, which there could be, especially with the sun going down this early, we may have races that run into dusk or, into the evening hours. So yes, lighting and stuff like that, even if it is temporary, could be added.
Gotcha.
So,
So on your map, the north side's your main track, and then
the pump track, right,
the pump track would be on the south side. There
correct.
was something in that southwest corner, there was an empty spot. Have you guys
That
talked
is,
about
that,
or-
that's the current parking.
Oh, so that's where your parking
Yeah,
would
that,
be. Gotcha.
if you've been out there, yeah, that's actually
Yep.
currently set up as parking, so
Okay.
that would still retain as parking. We would actually, there's a fence that you pull into. We would move that fence further back to be in line with the fence of where the pump track is gonna align, so it actually expands our parking that much. And then the track, if you can kind of draw an imaginary line right there, then we expand it. It's about an additional 70 feet
Gotcha.
from where the fence is now to where we would move it to.
Perfect, thanks, guys.
Yep.
Would you guys have to build that facility up at all? I don't recall if that property has flood history on it or not, or is there any concerns about that?
Well, one of the grants that we had,
Which was a federal.
it was a federal grant. It had been in the floodplain, so it kind of eliminated us. But I believe the new berms that, was it the city or was it the state? Corps of Engineers, I think.
Engineers did
Corps of
that.
Engineers. They came in and built a berm, and the River's Edge Golf Course and the Nazarene Church since then have not had a flooding issue. So I don't know if that would then, if the city could go back and try and take it out of the floodplain because it had been in the floodplain, then it would qualify us again for additional grants, but I don't know what the feasibility is with that floodplain issue. It has been discussed, but
Question.
yeah, yeah. No, and it had been an issue prior to the Corps of Engineers building that berm.
Thank you.
Anything else, anyone?
Well, thank you for your time, you guys.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
One of the questions that has come up as we've discussed this is that would be eliminating a dog park on the north side of town. My wife and I spend a fair amount of time on the weekends walking in Cody Park, and I can tell you most people run their dogs in Cody Park. So my idea is that we would take a piece of Cody Park and sort of section it off as an official dog park so that we have a dog park on both ends of the community. So anyway, just a side note to this discussion. Okay, we have reached the end of our agenda. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Mr. McGrath, actually, same question for both.